Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Simply Monique Radio Show. I'm your host, Monique, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest. Is world-renowned, I mean world-renowned international award-winning author, best-selling author at that. She is also a nonprofit owner. She's a founder of the DRS Global and Sunday Foundation. She's an AI and health and wellness strategist, as well as a board-certified anesthesiologist with over 26 plus years of experience. She's a media personality, and the list goes on, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show, Dr. Renee Sunday.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I am grateful to finally catch up with you, this internationally known woman that be traveling, speaking, teaching, equipping, and empowering everyone wherever she goes. So, I'm glad you have time today to share with us a little bit and our subject on today on overcoming grief. So, I would like our audience to know something a little different about you. What's one thing that's unique that I didn't quite mention in the mini bio I share with our listeners on today? But what's one thing about you that people don't really know? Something unique you feel comfortable with sharing?
I think the most unique thing is I have at least, and the number goes higher and higher. I have at least 25 god kids. Because everywhere I go, I mean, even at Walmart, I have to tell the parents, I promise I didn't say anything to your child.
Yeah.
Children just come up to me, and it's so a blessing from God because I don't have my natural born kids, but I'm actually they what they feel is the nurturing
Yes.
aspect of me, and so I'm truly grateful for that because I don't really talk about that because that's something that was inborn that I didn't
Mhm.
know I had until I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? These kids are coming up to me and I don't know them, but I'm truly grateful that I'm able to be that for so many people.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And it's a rarity. And that is awesome. It's a rarity to have people who with children really naturally want to come and be a part and connected to the individual because children, as young as they are, they pretty have a good discernment of character when it comes to people and choosing those who they want to connect with and bond with. So that is different, which makes it even special because when you said that, it reminded me about your shark story, about the dentist with the shark story. It reminded me of your children's book when you said that. So it made sense.
Yes. Yeah, that's my give back, and I just love people, so it actually it comes natural, but I give God all the honor and glory in
Amen.
everything I do and say.
Amen. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, our subject for this week on the Sipping Money Radio Show, we are discussing overcoming grief. And I know who knows that better than you, with especially with the losses that you have experienced over the past couple of years. So, let us kind of dive into the first a little bit. I guess when did you realize at that point, like, okay, I'm grieving and I have to deal with this, or I face this point in stage of grief?
Mm. Well, to step back just a little bit, the first major grief that hit the Sunday family was really in 2011 when my only brother passed. And I'll be honest, I was like, God, what's really going on? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, wait a minute,
Yes,
he
I
was
do.
turning the corner, as people say. He was in college and he was doing a presentation and basically passed out, had cardiac arrest, and he ended up having really a rupture, a hole in one of his major vessels in his body, the aorta. That's the actual official name. And the custodian actually revived him twice, and then he ended up having emergency surgery. And he ended up having three strokes during the procedure, and then it just was his time, for him to go. And he
Yes,
was
that's a lot
32
for
years old.
wow, a young man, and that was a lot
Hmm.
to experience something like that.
Right. So I'm like, God, what's really going on with this? So part of my grief, Monique, was actually journaling. I didn't know I had the gift of writing and all transparency until that particular time. And with my counselor, they walked me through how to journal out my feelings, the things that I was upset about, that I was happy about. And I also had an opportunity to pause, meaning not really have all the obligations that I carry on a daily basis. So I was able to do that, and really God, with my counselor, walked me through that first grief. And so fast forward of what you mentioned of my parents, both my parents passed 18 months apart. And I think over the journey of caregiving for them, me and my sister,
Mm-hmm.
we had the opportunity to kind of really on another level spiritually with my parents. Because I am in ministry. And
Yes, you
so
are.
God prepared me, and I really didn't know He was preparing me for their journey and for them to actually transition in a very smooth and spiritual way.
I think that is awesome, and the fact that you recognized it. And so, what I want to share with our audience before I go into that point there, two things I noted that you shared when it pertained to your brother. The first part was you had a counselor, and I want to encourage our listeners to get a counselor. And the second part you learned about was journaling your feelings. And it's very important that we be able to write our feelings to express ourselves. And so sometimes we can journal certain things, but when it comes to expressing our emotions so that we can deal with them in a healthy manner, we may not do that. So that's two tidbits I do believe when it comes to overcoming grief is important is having a counselor and being able to journal your emotions, your feelings, and write it out. And you discover that you had a knack for writing, didn't even know that. And then fast forward, you speaking how number three I would say was preparation and how you was prepared for um your mother and your father when they passed and how they passed 18 months apart, but God prepared you. And so I think preparation when it comes to grief is being open and honest and prepared and knowing like, hey, this is going to happen. I can recall my grandmother
Hmm.
telling me that getting me ready for when she's going to pass. I didn't want to talk about death, but I kid you not, she died a couple of years later. I was about 19 when we had the conversation. About 2 years or so later, she passed. And I didn't, and I tried to walk away, and she was like, "Mm-mm, you gotta face it, Monique. You gotta deal with death because it's a part of life." And I was so adamant about not talking about it just because so many people in my family had passed by the time I was 19. I was just like, I'm tired of dealing with death, because it started at an early age for me. But my grandmother prepared me. And so who would have known that, she would have passed. But when she passed, I was sad about it, but I was prepared because she had already told me she prepared me a couple years prior and leading up to it, the same when the Lord prepared you when it came to your parents and you and your sister were your parents' caregivers. And so I think that part when you are a caregiver and you get to spend that time with them, you don't have that guilt versus some persons who don't get to spend time with their family. I think some people who lose relatives, they may feel guilty. Would you say so?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of people, grief is something that you can't really explain. I'm actually also a grief counselor as well. But you can't really explain how people will respond. And my first statement is always that grief, for everyone is different. Some people digest it one way or another, but I truly agree with you. And some people don't agree with me that I think a counselor is important. It's okay to get therapy. It's okay to have that in your life because
Mm-hmm.
we need
Mm-hmm.
to have that balance. And I always say harmony. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, have God, but
Mm-hmm.
but God will be right there with the
Right.
counselor and the therapist.
Yes, it does. I can recall. It does make a difference when you have a good counselor, and not someone that's just trying to force medicine. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm gonna recommend you take this prescription and whatnot like that. Depending on the type of counselor you have, but having a good counselor will help you identify the root cause of the issue, the problem that you're dealing with, or so why you're grieving, how long is the grieving process, and so sometimes the grief can actually go back further to your childhood from things that where you lost something. Maybe you lost a puppy or you lost a cat or your favorite doll or your favorite game, something like that, or a stuffed animal, whatever it is. You may have started experiencing grief early and did not properly process that. So when you start losing human beings like parents or cousins or siblings like that, you have not really processed the emotions from your childhood. So as an adult and a teenager, you you may compact those emotions, and so when grief can come, you may go through the different stages of grief or the cycles of it. However, you may have to grieve some other things, and so um I'm getting like at least 4 points. And since you're a grief counselor, I think you guys can put that plug in. Go ahead and contact Dr. Renee if you have any issues with and you're trying to overcome grief. She's also an author and she has several books that she's written, and I believe she has a new journal, right? Didn't you just release a new journal?
Yes, yes. There's so many things that God has entrusted me. Yeah, we have a new, it's a prayer journal, and then we
Yes.
also have another book so people know how to rest, and that's
Yes.
resting in God. And from that, if we rest in Him, everything else would kind of line up after that. But of course, I'm not making it that simple now. It
Right,
is a
right, right.
journey, and
Yes.
everyone has their own journey, and of course, relationship with God.
Exactly, for sure. Everyone has their own journey. Like, there are people, some cousins of mine, they lost their mom about 3 years ago now. And so they are still grieving, and they were adults and have their own children, but they still grieving the loss of their mom. And everyone has their own journey. There's some other relatives of mine, they are in their 50s and 60s and they lost their mom. And so each one of them have their own route and journey that they take as far as healing. And so with your prayer journal that you wrote, and the other book that you just mentioned, do you recommend having tools, as far as to help you go along with your grieving process?
Yes, tools are very important. In this day and age, we're not lacking information. The concern is having so much information, we need to make sure we execute it and we put it to use. And I think that's kind of what's going on nowadays, especially with grief. What journaling is great for me, and I kind of think is great for everybody, but everybody does it different. I mean, these younger people, bless their heart, I love them, they do the journaling, electronically. I mean, so it's a lot of different tools out there, but we
Uh-huh.
just need to find out and research what's best for us instead
Yes.
of we don't want to get in a box, if you will,
Mhm.
because we don't want those emotions to get stored up inside and not
Right.
release them, because you can end up having concerns with your health
Yes.
if you don't do that.
That is very true. That is, oh my gosh, that is so true. I did some reading sometimes before, like when you hold on to grief, it caused by other issues. Like you could have like chronic illnesses actually, because when those emotions are bottled up, you can end up with high blood pressure. You can even become diabetic. You can have heart issues, migraines. It's a whole list of things that happen when you do not deal with your grief properly and your emotions properly. I actually want to get this the factual information because I do not want to just say anything.
Well, that is true. It's a diagnosis out there now called stress syndrome. That whatever the quote unquote stress, and that could be losing a loved one. That of course, stress on the job, home, et cetera, or losing your job, or just the climate we in the world. That people come in with heart attack symptoms, migraine symptoms, all these
Yes.
type of symptoms, and guess what?
What?
They don't really have any build up of their cholesterol, for example, for the heart
Mm-hmm.
attack. They don't Their scans can be totally normal, but they have those symptoms of that, and it's actually in the textbooks now. And the doctors and my colleagues in healthcare, we're very aware of that a lot of times. And there's no age group. Let me just put that on there. It's no age group. It could be whatever age. Even our young people are
Mm-hmm.
having what's called stress syndrome, and they have an effect on their body. So it's a serious thing that we need to make sure that we be our own advocate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna say that again: be our own advocate, and just don't sit in a situation. Always reach out for help.
Definitely, definitely. I just want to recap right quick, ladies and gentlemen. So we want to talk about getting a counselor, journaling your feelings, getting tools and execute them, praying, and actually reaching out for help. I'm gonna repeat myself again. So, some recommendations by Dr. Sunday is to get a counselor, being able to journal your feelings. If you get the tools, execute the tools that you get. Prayer, of course, spending time with the Lord and reaching out for help. Don't bottle up your emotions. I want to make sure I say that too. Don't bottle up your emotions. I like to take notes and I leave people, our audience, they drop little nuggets, little gems off. And so these are nuggets and gems that help you, ladies and gentlemen, to overcome your grief. So, let's dive in. Let's kind of shift gears a little bit because you've been an author for several years. You've won awards. You've traveled. You even got some major speaking engagements, things coming up. And so, with that, anything that you want to share with our audience, let them know, hey, where can they go to meet with you for your next upcoming event? If they want to, perhaps, to hear and see you and meet, in person, for what you have going on, and how perhaps, they can actually just get some scheduling done with you regarding the grief counseling and the services that you provide.
Oh, that's great, Monique. First of all, I want to just thank you for you being in your purpose and the things that you're doing in this world to change a person one by one. That's what we all here for.
Yeah, yes,
But
ma'am.
yeah, but really the good thing with social media and my website is my name. It's Renee Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
or you can say Doctor, which is Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Renee Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Either one of them will actually take you to my social media, my website, and you can inbox me. I always tell people it's okay to have therapy. It's okay to have a counselor. It's okay to have a mentor. It's okay to do that because there's so much going on in the world. And the old saying and the new saying and right
Mm-hmm.
now saying,
Yeah.
it does take the whole village. So
Yes.
I am
Yes.
taking, speaking engagement. I love to empower people. I love to get them excited. But beyond the excitement, like you mentioned, is tools and strategies that
Mm-hmm.
they can go to their next. Because
Yes.
I cannot be truly in my purpose
Mm-hmm.
if you're not in your purpose. So that's why I love people. And it's okay. And you know what? When I do counsel, I always have to say this: it's confidential. It's confidential. It won't be on social media. It won't be that kind of thing. But one thing I am gonna do is pray. But I'm gonna ask your permission, okay, to do that.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly. Exactly. And I love the fact that you said ask your permission. I think sometimes people forget that there are boundaries. And I think even when you're grieving, there are boundaries for people. If like I heard a pastor say one time, like, you may not know what to say. And sometimes you may not need to say anything, you may ask a person, you may ask them like, can I bring you flowers, or can I drop off some food, or can I, give a donation? Some
Mhm,
people you may want to ask them before you do something, just because you don't want to offend them. Some people
mhm,
may want you to do that, or like, or can I pray for you? You ask for that
mhm,
because people have different
mhm,
boundaries, and everyone is different. And just because, like, if like for people who've lost their mother, each person experiences a loss of a mother differently. I've seen some people be happy their mother was passed. I've seen people who were sad they lost their mother or their father. I've seen so many different things. And so there's people who are still grieving right now today, and they are trying to recover from that wound. And so I know you said that some people say there's no time for you to grieve, but I do believe that you have to heal. And in order for you to heal,
mhm,
you have to address that problem. So whatever the root cause is for your grief, if you failed to
mhm,
spend time with your loved one, if you failed to communicate properly, or if you failed to forgive them, maybe you didn't forgive them or something like that. I think that's an important process too, when overcoming grief. You have to forgive the person and forgive yourself, or maybe you dropped the ball, and it's okay to acknowledge, okay,
mhm,
like them people when was it the Alcoholic Anonymous, or whatever you call it, the narcotics or whatever Anonymous. They say the first step is acknowledging, and I believe one of the first steps
mhm,
you can do in grieving is what, acknowledge, hey, I'm grieving, I'm hurting right
mhm,
now, so that way you can, like a counselor like you, hey, we can't come and expect you to know everything what's going on with this. Like, if we don't talk to you or communicate, establish that boundary with you, like, hey, this is what's going on with me, and to build that relationship so that you can effectively provide counsel, right? And you said you would ask
mhm,
permission. So in order for you to effectively provide counsel to, let's say, someone like me, if I was grieving a loss of some form, then you would have to, like, hey, ask me certain questions. I'll have to first be willing to admit, yes, I am grieving, and not be in denial, because I know people be in denial, then you get angry and all these different phases. And then you finally got to, we have to accept it. And I think that first step, ladies and gentlemen, we have to accept, what's going on, that the person is deceased and they aren't coming back. Or if the relationship ended, being able to accept that, or if you lost a job, or the pet died, or whatever the case may be, or the miscarriage, or I'm just thinking of stuff right now, but it's different things that could happen, possibly going on with someone who's grieving. Admitting it first so that you can do the healing process. I don't know if we still connected or not, but hopefully we are still
Yeah, we're
connected.
here. I'm
Okay,
here.
yes, man. Hopefully that we are still connected. So, any other like recommendations or tidbits that you would have you want to share with people on as far as the processing any sort of like foods? Oh, then you make a cook. Then you release a cookbook, right, in honor of your mom, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so see there's other methods that you can use to, ladies and gentlemen, to overcome grief, like to keep them have a positive memory if you wanted to. You can do what Dr. Sunday did. Her mom had and it was a bestseller. Her mom's cookbook, all these different recipes and loving to cook. Here, now her legacy is living on even after Dr. Sunday is gone. Her mom's recipe is stapled, right? It's in the Library of Congress, it's everywhere, that book there. And so another form to overcome grief is, having positive memories and carrying on a legacy that's positive, right? Um,
Mhm.
it makes a difference. And she has a Sunday Foundation. Well, guess what? The Sunday Foundation just had something recently, right? Where you guys are honoring people and even actually being recognized for the work that you do. So there's different forms that help you to overcome to overcome your grief in a positive way, ladies and gentlemen. Look at Dr. Sunday, for example. She's been doing things in ministry and business for many years. And so instead of having a war is me concept, she's like, what the song say? Um, Pick up your backpack, you know what I'm saying? Get your boot troops or whatnot. It's
Mhm.
time to ride. She rode
Mhm.
out. Okay. She got a backpack and she rode out and the red carpet for other people to come along to be empowered, be equipped, and be educated. She has her own slogan that she likes to say as well. And as far as sharing content on social media every day, she's sharing and inspiring people with different contents and quotes to remind people. In fact, one I'm gonna read right now that she shared recently. Um,
Mhm.
and this is something I think is very important, ladies and gentlemen. And this is directly from her. Limit exposure to toxic media and online content that negatively affects your emotions or self esteem. When you are grieving, that is so important. So, so important. And that, ladies and
Mhm.
gentlemen, came directly from Dr. Renee Sunday, your grief counselor.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful.
That's
Yes.
your
I,
statement.
yeah. No. No. It is powerful yeah. The thing we have to realize. I love social media. I love it,
Hmm.
but it is. We have to be mindful of what it's saying and not saying. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I think sometimes because I have to always say that when I was growing up it wasn't any social media, so I have to always throw that out
Right.
there. But
Right.
our
Right.
younger people, that's all they know because
Hmm.
it's been since they were born. But
Right.
you have to kind of remember it's a button on there when we upload things. It's a button on there that says filters.
Right. Right.
And so
Right.
a lot of people that you see all, as the kids love to say, glammed out and amazing and those type of things, please take that with a grain of thought.
Hmm.
That it may or may not be true. We're not trying to put
Yes.
anybody down with that,
Right.
but especially when you're going through grief or any situation, just
Hmm.
be kind of mindful of what you're. I always say your gates, meaning what you're looking at, what you're listening to,
Hmm.
what you're hearing from others, and really
Yes.
what you're saying to yourself as well.
Yes.
Because we have to have that harmony.
Hmm.
I don't like to I don't like to say balance because my balance is different from somebody else. And
Right.
so what works with you, your harmony and your body and your spirit, is not the same as somebody else.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Very true. And so that is very true. And it's true because it's harmony. Harmony, unity. People like when they sing, like you have the yeah. We always know that the soprano, there's the alto and the tenor, but there's a bass too. And you may always have a bass that's singing in it, but you may have it. You have somebody that's a first soprano or second soprano or an alto or second alto. There's different chords, different keys, different ranges, vocal ranges. And so you get harmony. When everybody's singing together in a harmony and the notes flow, it makes it easier. And like you said, you don't use the word balance because it's different for everyone, which is true. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are nearing the close of this show here. So, as stated before, Dr. Sunday, our recap of our notes today on overcoming grief are: number one, getting a counselor; number two, journaling your feelings; number three, get tools and make sure you execute them; number four, prayer; number five, don't bottle up your emotions; number six, reach out for help. And number seven, acceptance. Don't be in denial. It's okay to go through the stages of grief, but number one, just make sure that you acknowledge that this is what's happening. Soon as we can acknowledge it, oh, you know what? Yeah, and that we can acknowledge it. And number eight is protecting your eye gates, your ear gates. You know what you hear, what you see. You know, even what you smell and what you taste. You kind of guard it, guard your gates all together
Mhm.
to protect yourself. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're wrapping up our show. Dr. Sunday, let people know once more how they can get in touch with you regarding speaking engagements, even if they want to learn how to become an author, or they just want to support what you do. They need and get your services.
Oh, well, thank you. You're amazing, Monique. Just Renee Sunday .com is the website. But if you type in Dr. period Renee Sunday on social media, or even Renee Sunday, all the information will come up. But I enjoyed this conversation, even though it's hard to talk about grief, but we
It
got to
is.
talk about it. And so
Yes.
this was a pleasant experience, and I thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for taking time out to be a guest on the Simply Monique Radio Show. We'd like to thank all our sponsors near and far for supporting us. Shout out to Edna Sanders. She has a wonderful and amazing book that's out there. God, you guys, ladies and gentlemen, is discovering her journey. And when I tell you, it's on her website, sweetly6.me.us, sweetly6me.us. Go there. Shout out to Miss Monique Jackson. Yeah, her name is Monique Jackson. It is not me. She has a book also called What's in Your Mouth as well. Visit www.kinddomwrk.com to order your copy of her book. Also, thank you, Miss Khaleesi Sheree. She is an author as well. Visit www.KELLEISASHARAY.com to order her book. She has multiple books on her website for you all to get. She has the Nourish Your Crown, the Hair Nutritionist 7 Series Collection, also Eating in Rhythm. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we like to thank our sponsor, Let's Talk Business Consulting Group, and Dubby. We appreciate these consistent loyal supporters and to everyone listening all over the world. Thank you all for tuning in to the Simply Monique Radio Show. Stay up, be blessed, and peace.